Hi, this is June from Turning Point Life Investment, and this is your market analysis for the week ending in October 10th, 2009. So, last week we mentioned that the market is testing a very critical trend line, which is right here. And this week you notice that buyers came in and continued buying the market. It was a successful retest of this trend line, telling us that this is a pretty significant trend line if it ever happens to come back and touch this line again. Now, given that the market has been up pretty much this entire week of 5 consecutive straight days, I wouldn't be surprised if we get somewhat of a consolidation or a bit of a pullback starting next week. We came very close to retesting this high of last month in September, back around 108. Let me take it into an hourly view just to get a good idea of where's a pretty good support area to look for. So you would see here that around 106, and there's a gap right around the 104.50. There's a couple of gaps that the market could possibly retest, more closely around the 106, maybe around this 104.5 zone. So any pullback around this area is most likely expected. Now the only thing is, when it comes back down to this area, will buyers come back in and buy again? If it holds around here, then I would suspect that more than likely buyers will take this market higher, probably break that 108 high. But we got to see how prices react around this level. You can see definitely there's prices are overbought, and as well as divergence. So it needs to kind of work that stuff out, right? Kind of work out the divergence and work out the overbought. And in doing so, it can either go sideways or it can pull back a bit. Going back out into an hourly view, just to throw it out there, for you guys to play around with, there's a good chance that this market might also be forming somewhat of a triangle. Okay, if prices come back up and retest 108, and maybe it bounces down to retest this trend line, it could be forming this type of pattern where it's being forced into some type of apex. So just throwing it out there, another possibility that you might want to consider. Otherwise, if we just get somewhat of a consolidation and pullback, we might just be able to straight break through this previous high. If it does so, I would say 110 is a good level to look for. If, however, we do break this trend line as well as this 50-day moving average, then we would put in a lower low, and that might change the trend up a bit. Okay, so watch for that. Watch for the break of the trend line or the 50-day moving average for any downside bias. However, a break above 108 would tell us that the buyers want to continue taking this market higher. Okay, going into the VIX, we're looking at traders' sentiment here. Again, we mentioned that the VIX was stuck between 30 and 23. Very clear box range. So overall, the VIX sentiment-wise, it's very, I would say, rather neutral. I mean, even though we get some nice movements within the box, but the overall traders' sentiment is still rather neutral. So any break underneath 23, I would say a close underneath 23 would tell us that there's more bullishness to come. However, if we get a bounce off of this support line, then that would tell us that there's a little bit more fear coming back into the market. But overall, I would clearly wait for a breakout above 30 to really tell us that there's a bigger correction coming in. But other than that, if it stays within here, I would just expect some minor correction to occur. So just watch for these levels in the VIX. Anything below here is bullish, anything above here is considered bearish. So overall, just watch how prices behave within this the top and the trend line. It's earnings season, so I'll be a bit more cautious. Again, continue to be cautious, but still continue to go long, and just watch your stops and just and be mindful of when earnings is coming out for the stock that you're interested in.